The Taliban have said they will be dealing with the issue of women's rights, but there are no women in the government. Protests by Afghan women against the Taliban restrictions that began in Heirat have spread to Kabul and Mazar-e-Sharif. What does it take for Afghan women to protest in a country ruled by the Taliban? We pose this question to Aryana Saeed, an Afghan singer and songwriter. Listen in to what she had to say.
Well, you have to be quite brave to actually do something like that. I was quite thrilled to hear the news yesterday, and I saw clips of how Afghan women were protesting on the streets, willing to even die. But they had, accepted that anything can happen to them, but they were still eager to ask for their rights and scream for their freedom. This was quite amazing to me, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that. Obviously, I have said this in my previous interviews that today we're dealing with not with the same Afghan women that we were dealing with 20 years ago. The women of today in Afghanistan are educated, they're bright, they're aware of their rights, they're aware of their freedom, and they're aware of the world. So I really hope that they can continue with this fight. And I really hope that the international community would actually put some focus on Afghanistan and especially on the Afghan women and children, because they cannot take Afghan women back to stone ages where they were not even allowed to go outside, forget even working or studying and things like that. And they need to understand that they're dealing with the same Taliban that they were before, and they're only showing or portraying a new face because they want to desperately be recognized by the world. And I really hope and pray that the world will not recognize Taliban officially, because they're nothing but a bunch of terrorists, ISI, Pakistani terrorists who have taken over Afghanistan, and they want to rule and force people to accept them.
An all-male cabinet has been announced with terrorists named as ministers and key positions given to at least 17 UN-sanctioned men in the government. We earlier asked Aryana Saeed if there is any reason to believe now that the Taliban have changed. This is how she responded.
No, I think they just proved it by, replacing, for example, the Haqqani group as the heads of 2 or 3 ministries. And that itself, has proven the fact that they have not changed, that Taliban are still the same. People who actually did the 9/11, terrorist attack in America, that they're the same people who actually took Afghanistan to stone ages 20 years ago. They're the same Taliban who know no humanity, and in their new government, even the women have no place. There's no, Ministry of Women Affairs anymore. Women are not involved in the government. How they actually, yesterday, there was a protest from Afghan women, and they started beating them up. They actually locked them up in a basement, and they actually took so many of them hostages. This clearly shows that we're dealing with the same Taliban that we were dealing with 20 years ago.
Women have also been chanting anti-Pakistan slogans, asking Islamabad to stop meddling in Afghanistan's affairs. We asked Aryana Saeed for her reaction to these protests.
I was quite thrilled, as I mentioned before. Honestly, I really salute the Afghan women, how they have dared and how they're so brave enough to actually go on the streets despite the risks and despite the fact that they could be killed, that they could be beaten up. They've had enough. They've had enough of the war. They've had enough of being prisoners, for so many years that, now they want their voice to be heard. And obviously they fear for the future. They fear for the future of their children. And I am so happy for the fact that Afghan people have woken up finally, and they're recognizing the enemy of Afghanistan, which is Pakistan. They're recognizing the fact that ISI has direct with Taliban. They just proved that by sending the head of ISI in Afghanistan the other day, and he was having tea with Taliban. Why was he in Kabul at all? Where Pakistan hasn't even recognized Taliban as the official new government yet, but they send the head of the ISI in Afghanistan, and he's just enjoying and having a cup of tea with Taliban. What does that tell us? It tells us that Pakistan is actually directly connected with Taliban, and they're actually the reason why Afghanistan is in misery and has been in misery for so many years.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.